Welcome to the Black Diamond Podcast. I'm your host, Will White, and I have a great episode for you tonight. I'm joined with two lovely ladies, and we're going to get into a discussion on dating and how men can improve in the dating market. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, welcome to the podcast, guys. A few announcements before we get into the episode and into the topic. I'm trying to reach a goal of 1,000 subscribers, so make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Instagram at Black Diamond Pod. Follow me on Twitter. I'm on all platforms. If you want to listen to the audio version, check me out on Spotify. And yeah, let's get into the panel. I'm joined with two lovely ladies, so I'm going to bring them on right now. Okay, so let's get into introductions. Let's start with your name, age, what do you do for work, education, and your relationship status.
Cool. I guess I'm unmuted, so I'll start. My name is Jordan. I am 23. I graduated from Coastal Carolina University in South Carolina about 2 years ago now. I am single, and what I do for work, I run a holistic healing / holistic health business. And I also work in behavioral and mental health as well. So that's kind of my short little blurb there.
Okay, how long have you been single for?
Great question. Coming up, around 3 years.
3 years, so since you were
Yeah,
20.
so since 2020, when I guess everybody's life went to crazy different areas.
Do you feel like things changed, like, for relationships during that time period when we were, like, through the pandemic?
Oh, for sure. Life changed for, I think, everyone in so many ways. And I don't think that romantic relationships were exempt from that. I feel like it definitely took some hits as far as people, especially long distance couples that weren't able to travel, even being able to just, couples that live in the same city. There was a lot of quarantining. There was a lot of, consideration for family members and friends who are immunocompromised and other things like that. So I feel like it definitely put a lot of romantic, I guess, topics into perspective for people. Also at that time, a lot of people were doing a lot of self-discovery and a lot of self-work as well. So the way that they approached and viewed themselves and their approach to relationships, I feel like also was impacted by that for sure.
I think COVID, like, when everybody was locked down, that was a test of, like, some people's relationships. He was like, we either gonna, like, make it, or he's like, I'm gonna get annoyed after seeing you day after day after day, and we're gonna call it quits.
Yeah.
Was that like, I know you ended your relationship before COVID or during, after?
So a couple months after COVID had started. So it kind of hit around this time, like Marchish 2020. And I'll say um, my relationship ended probably in July. But like most people, it ended before it officially ended. So there's always, but yes, officially, yeah, a couple months into COVID, it was like July-ish. So we were still very much in the peak of it.
Okay. How's dating been for you so far?
Since then, so ironically, my business, like I mentioned, is holistic health and wellness. There's definitely a spiritual element to holistic health and approach. And I got on a spiritual journey after that breakup. So it's kind of really just been, it wasn't a decision, but kind of like a natural celibacy for me, because I was one of those people that did start to do a lot of self-reflection and self-improvement and basically undoing all the things I had learned in the first 2 decades of my life and setting myself up for healthier ways of being in relationships. I took a long look at I want a boyfriend. I want a boyfriend. Well, I was like, wait, would I be a good girlfriend? And I really sat with that question, and I thought about, my approaches to things and the way I thought about things, and just the things I had been through, and I had to do a lot of unpacking in that regard and basically restructuring myself and how I thought about myself and how I thought about relationships. So I was definitely one of those people. So naturally, a lot of the focus just came on me, and just as I started learning and growing, a lot of the things I saw in regards to relationships and in regards to what we think of relationships in our current society, I was like, oh, all of a sudden, I don't agree with this. All of a sudden, situationships don't seem that much fun. Like, just having little realizations like that. And
All right,
then,
wait, hold on. Before you get into it, you
yeah.
said that you didn't see yourself as a good girlfriend, right?
Uh-huh. Well, no, I would have been a good girlfriend, but there are things that I definitely needed to work on to be able to make me the best girlfriend that I could have been, as far as,
So,
insecure attachments and things like that.
so what makes a good girlfriend? What do you
Great
think, in your opinion?
question. I think in general, what would make a great partner, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, is someone who really embodies love and what you think of when you think of love. You think of compassion, you think of understanding, commitment, working together, cooperation, really. I feel like that is what makes a good partner. And of course, looks are good for some people. It's not big for everybody,
Perfect.
but that's important to you. There's lots of things, just being committed, I feel like, also to understanding your partner and not just saying, oh, well, you're not the way that I want my partner to be, so I guess this just isn't going to work. Or, really like wanting to learn and understand somebody at their core and why they tick and what makes them work and why they view and operate the way that they do. Because a lot of times, a lot of times that there's that initial physical attraction. And I feel like when that's the start of a relationship, it really takes away from the initial building and the initial connection, because a lot of people are like, oh, we're great in bed together. But then when the sex is over, it's like it's kind of this awkward moment, like, ooh, so that was kind of a long tangent, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot more than just the outer and the physical, like you said. Like, there's a lot of other components. I would say, like, emotional.
Yeah.
And for men, it's really like, how does this woman fit in my life? What type of value does she add to a man's life?
Hmm.
So when you have all those things combined, that's when you have like the perfect girlfriend.
Hmm.
But that's also if you choose the perfect man for you, you can't just choose any guy and give him all that.
Yeah. And it's
All
hard
right.
to say there is a perfect boyfriend or a perfect girlfriend, because we're all so different. And what's perfect for you or me isn't perfect for the other, wouldn't be perfect for Aaliyah, or wouldn't be perfect for, some of my friends. So I feel like there's a lot of uniqueness in that. And finding that perfect person is I feel like, uncovering a lot of what you don't want to get to what you really do want. So yeah.
Exactly. I shouldn't even have said perfect. Perfect was overstatement, right? Because everybody has flaws. So
Yeah.
you search for perfection, you're gonna have this like these expectations that nobody can really live up to. So
Exactly.
what you said right. What's perfect for you?
What's perfect
So-
for me?
no, I think you said it right. Like, you got to find that person that's perfect for you.
Okay, gotcha. Sorry, it kind of cut out
Yeah.
for a second. I was like, are you asking me? That's a big question.
I mean, I think it's pretty simple. I think most women have the same archetype of guy that they want. You want a guy who's stronger than you, taller than you, more successful, intelligent, you know.
And I'm glad we're having this conversation, because I feel like we're gonna get into these stigmas of
Oh
what
yeah,
men
yeah.
think women want and what we actually want, because I feel like there's a massive disconnect between the two. And I'm glad we're having this conversation.
You don't think men know what women want?
No.
Really? So,
uh,
because it takes for a man to attract a woman, we have to on some level, right? We ourselves have to be attractive. We have to know what attracts you, and
Yeah.
then we have to have that confidence to approach you. We have to have that mental that mental connection there, so we can intrigue you and make you curious, so you want to talk to us even more. I
Mm.
think I think men do understand
But
women a
that's
lot
not
better
like
than women
that's
understand
kind of a
men.
lot. Y'all don't have to do all that. Just be you.
Really?
Just be you. You don't have to
No.
dissect the situation and take over,
Being
but you
you is the biggest lie society has told men. That does not work. Being us does not work. We have to be the total package to attract y'all.
But that's the
don't.
part that is really a lie in itself, because what's the total package? It's based off of a stereotype or an assumption. But if you're authentic to yourself, it will shine. But the problem that very many people get in contact, like come across, is personality. Because the thing about attraction isn't, what you look like in regards to height and, build, or what you drive, or what you make, or your career choices. It's actually, how can you take me into an intellectual exchange, or how can you stimulate me to really engage with you, because you naturally have charisma and you have that personality that's capturing my attention and my draw to you. So it really isn't that total package, because I'll ask you, what is the total package? What does it look like?
Sure, I can tell you. Personality is part of the package. You're not going to date someone who doesn't have a personality or who wasn't interesting to you, right? But for that man to even have the chance to talk to you, he has to meet some bare minimum level of attraction towards you. Like, you're not going to talk to someone who you consider not attractive. You're not going to like if he, for instance, a lot of women don't date men who are shorter than them, right?
Mm.
So if that man is shorter than you, you're not even going to give him the chance to get to know his personality because he doesn't meet that expectation of yours. You see what I'm saying?
So it comes to the fact that if you try to meet that idea, and there's females that actually would date someone shorter to them, or they would date someone who's unattractive, then you are kind of trying to mass be attracted to everybody versus actually being attracted to the one person that you are drawn to.
Yeah.
Because that's the part where, if you're not naturally drawn to somebody, it doesn't connect. But you could be drawn to someone you would least expect to, because she's captivating, she's funny, she actually, carries a really good conversation, and you feel alive with her,
Mhm.
right? She may not be something, a model, or the stereotype, but for you, she makes you feel like, "Ah, I'm somebody, I matter to her." And that's sometimes what really is an attraction, is that you feel like a person respected, honored, cherished, and uplifted and supported. And it's a mutual, where it's like, oh, I want to do that for her just as much as she does that with me. Because it's less about those physical features. Because if something, and I speak on the young ladies who had acid thrown on their faces, what happens to their partners? Deuces, oh, you got acid face, I don't want to deal with you. No, it's literally, it's the inside that keeps them, not the outside exterior. Because if something happens to your face, it really wasn't a relationship in the first place, if you leave based off of your looks changing.
Well, I mean, you're talking about a relationship, right? When we're talking about just the initial point of dating. So even when you look at like dating apps, for example, right? Just think about how many times you swiped left on somebody, and you're not even given, and you don't even give them the chance to like read their bio or anything like that. That right there just proves that men do need to add more to the table than just personality. Like, they'll meet your bare expectations for attractiveness first, and then if their personality works with you, you'll proceed the relationship further. But for men,
Sometimes.
we need to come in with a certain level of attractiveness first. Like, most women aren't just gonna take an overweight, lazy, unmotivated type man, and I wouldn't want you to. I would want you to go after the best option, which is a man who takes care of himself and, you know, meets your expectations. And if the personality clicks, then it clicks.
But the best option for me may not be the best option for somebody else. Like, you know, you say, oh, because I'm 120 pounds and I'm little, I shouldn't go after someone that's like bigger and doesn't take care of themselves. But like, one, there are bigger people out there that prefer bigger people, and there's small people out there that prefer bigger people. So I feel like it's just, I mean, it's really just subjective because it's different for everybody.
Well, I understand. It is subjective, and it is going to go like case by case. But
And
for the most part, I would say just like based on like dating app data and the data that we have now, like personality is maybe third or fourth after the man meets that attractive requirement, whatever that is for you. And that's going to be subjective. But I do think men need to come in being the most attractive version of themselves to the dating market. I don't think them just like coming unattractive and being themselves. Because if that was the case, men would just stay home, overeat, and just play video games, and they would get all the women. But that's not the case.
That's what's on the dating
oh,
apps now. That's what's on the dating apps now. You have a lot of people who don't have self-care and they don't exhibit care for their physique because they, you know, you got to think about when you're in the dating apps, you are swiping and swiping, you don't know who these people are, and it's tiresome, it's exhausted, and then you got to put your best foot forward, and then you're getting rejected. So you do have a lot of men that are actually on these dating apps that are not their best selves, but at the same time, you know, they're trying to make an effort. Like
yeah.
they're showing up, but they also they look like they're gaming. Like, but at the same time, you know, they're good enough, right? And that's the part too, is like I think Jordan and I, just from our exchange, we're not really judging you on the exteriors. We're judging you based off of how safe do I feel with you, and how do you make me feel like, you know, I'm connected to you on not just a physical level, but we go inward into that deeper mental exchange, the spiritual lane, the emotional. Are you dealing with your traumas? Are
Yeah.
you, you know, are you dealing with
All right, hold on. But you do that after.
no, you do that
No,
from the, because
off
that's the
rip.
thing. If
No,
you
if that
don't
was
do
the
that
case,
from day one,
you would give most men. All right, if that was the case, then 33% of men who are under 30 right now would not be virgins or haven't had sex in a year. And that's a true stat right there. If that was
So
really the case
wild.
for most women. But most women, men have to come in meeting a certain level of attractiveness before they even get to that level of emotional connection and personality connection.
And I feel like that goes back to my point. People make that initial physical, and then after the physical part's over, they don't have that mental, they don't have that spiritual. So now, like, we're getting to a point to society where we're not focused on just the physical. We are focused on the mental and the spiritual, and it does come off for it because a lot of women are also just very intuitive and very like even men, you know, off rip you kind of know if you're gonna vibe with somebody or not. You're not deciding in that moment, oh, I'm gonna date you, oh, you know, we're gonna be together. But you're like, okay, like I could see us hanging out, talking, having good conversations. Maybe you have things in common, maybe you just have similar ideas. If you're attractive, yeah, that's a plus. But like speaking to the attraction aspect, I've met guys who I wasn't necessarily attracted to, but through getting to know them and meeting them and seeing the way that they thought and thought about things and thought about the world and viewed the world, that made me more physically attracted to them. And say opposite case, I've met a lot of guys who look great. They look really good and their personalities are shit. Like they're poor people, you know? And I'm like, okay, cool. Like your Dodge Charger looks great. It has an exhaust. It sounds amazing. It's cool. I like to ride in it. I like to drive it. You're a crappy person. I'm not going to give you my energy and my time of day. So, I mean, I just feel like women are at that point where it's not just about the physical anymore. It is about how partners, male, female, whatever, make you feel. They make you feel seen. They make you feel, like I said, they make you feel love and everything that love is: appreciation, understanding, cooperation, you know, space, understanding that people need space, things like that. So I don't know, at least for me, I'm understanding that it kind of does come off rip. And I kind of already get that vibe of, oh, he's just another one of them. I know how this is about to go. Or, okay, this person actually has some substance to them and can have a conversation. And they're not just trying to get to that physical aspect of, you look good, I look good, cool, let's make it do what it do, you know? So I don't know. I just want to speak to that, I guess.
Well, all right, before we continue this conversation, let's do Aaliyah's introduction. Aaliyah, tell us who you are. Name, age, education. What do you do for work? Relationship status.
Man, I was like, we gonna go real far into this, and no one's gonna know who I am. Like, it's okay. No. I was like, oh, he's asking some good questions, man. So my name is Aaliyah Erica Clark, and I am actually 39 years old, and I am a business structurist and coach. I work with small business owners. I graduated from Rochester Institute of Technology in New York, so I'm a straight New Yorker. And so my dating, I'm presently single. I've been single for about maybe 6 years. I've been single for 6 years. Yeah.
Why is that?
So the situationships, right? They were people who were looking for friends and friends with benefits, and they really didn't. They had committal issues, and so it was kind of like I was going along with it because this, maybe the sex or some of the connection was good, but then it really never amounted to anything because they had trauma that they were not processing. And so, yeah, I like my last relationship, and I grew so much from it that he kind of raised the bar as to like, if I were to be in another relationship, he has to be emotionally intelligent. He has to be emotionally healthy. He has to be emotionally conscious, because hurt people hurt people. And when you have all these people that are literally, oh, I just want to, let's not get too deep. Let's just stay on the surface. Then you have people that literally are just being reckless with their exchanges, and people can hang in the balance. And since I'm a mom of a 5-year-old, it's like, it's really hard to date actually as a mom. Because then you have people who have their own perceptions of, well, you want me to be the father? No, actually, I just need you to meet my needs. So, that.
Because you said a lot right there. You said a lot. Whose job is it to get a relationship when you two are dating?
I don't think there is a hierarchy to it. I think that it's a mutual thing. It has to be, because if you are not aligned with me and you are, I'm just not really wanting a relationship. Where's my place to say, well, I'm gonna go for it and get you into a relationship? You've already communicated that. So it would be dishonorable of me to disregard your preferences and where you are, and vice versa. So if I say I'm not ready for a relationship, or I'm not ready for a certain commitment, it's not for you to, I should hope it's not for you to like, well, since you're not ready, I'm going to move on. It's more of you finding the acceptance and the grace for me to find my safe space to be ready to then, okay, now I'm ready. So it really is it's a mutual thing. It's not a, he should ask for the relationship, she should ask for the relationship, or they should have a time in which the relationship should happen. I think organics is also something that's impacted too, is that if you organically feel connected to each other, it's not going to feel uncomfortable because you're already having those conversations. You're already going deep. You already know, hey, I'd like to build a life with you. That's going to be there. So having a title or, committing to each other isn't going to be extra work. It's just going to be a good.
I'm going to say this. It's the woman's job to get the relationship from the man.
I need you
Why
to
do you say that? I was like, why do you say that?
Elaborate on that for me, so I can make sure I'm just understanding correctly.
Because I'll tell you this. I'll tell you why. It's the man's job to attain that level of physical intimacy at first, right? That's the man's main purpose, right? He wants to break boundaries and, basically be intimate with you, right? After that, it then becomes the woman's job to say, okay, do I just want to keep having sex with him, or do I want to pursue a relationship with him? And if she does want to pursue a relationship with him, what type of value is she adding to his life to say that she wants a relationship with him?
What is he adding to my life? Let me read.
I'll
I
tell
just
I'll
said
tell you
that.
this.
I
He
just,
already added to your life by being the man you chose to have sex with. Because
but
as a woman, you're not just
that's
gonna
not
have sex
enough.
with anybody, correct?
But
You're gonna
that's
have
not
sex
no.
with a man that you find worthy to have sex with you. At least I hope so. But if you do
But
find that
why
man
is it
worthy
not
to
the
have
same
sex
for
with you,
men? Why is it okay for men to, or at least I'm taking away, is that it's okay for men to have sex with whoever, but why aren't they intentionally having sex with women that they want to be with? Why does the
that's
women have
easy.
to decide that they want to get into the
Men
relationship?
and women are different.
Just here for the dick? Like,
Men and women are
what is
different.
it?
But that's the
Yeah,
part that the
and it's different
patriarchy
and
and
we're different when it comes to sex as well. When a man goes out and has sex, he can have sex without being attached to some degree. He can have sex with the person he hates. Women can't have sex with men that they hate. And
yes, they can.
if you can,
Yes, they
certainly
can.
can. That's usually some sort of like some type of pro, somebody on the street who can
Yeah.
like have sex and not have that physical, that emotional attachment behind it.
I feel
And I
bad.
wouldn't even say that's a good thing that women should strive for. Like you shouldn't be having sex without an attachment to the man that you're having sex with.
But why can the men do it?
Because men view sex differently. We don't view it the same as women. For us, sex is just like taking a piss. You know, it
But
doesn't like at the
that's
end of
the
the day, as
part.
long as we're being safe about it, it doesn't affect us or hurt us the same way it
That's
affects you.
unfortunate. Because I feel like you guys should really honor yourselves and honor your bodies and honor that energetic exchange that you're having with somebody
We
that
do though. We
you
do
care
though, because let me tell you this, it's not easy to have sex with women. And I think a lot of women think it is easy to have sex with them for some reason, and it's not. Like 33 like 1 out of every 3 men is not having sex or hasn't had sex in a year. So the men that are having sex have built themselves up to a certain level to be attractive to multiple women.
So I wanna address something. When we come into a conversation to evolve males into what it is like for dating or what it's like to approach women, it really is a squash all stereotypes. Because when we come into the conversation with preconceived notions,
You
I'm
can't
gonna tell you
squash all
this.
stereotypes. You have to generalize to a certain degree because the world works on generalities, and we work on the idea of what works best for a large majority. So when we're talking about like a
that's
large
the
majority of
issue.
men, we have to
It's
talk
not
about what
about a
works best.
majority. It should
That's the
be
problem.
to you. So you have to take yourself out of that societal expectations and societal view. Same way I spoke, to my personal situation. I had to take myself out of the situationship memes that were getting funny on Twitter and reput, oh, ha ha ha. But realistically, I knew it in my heart I wanted a relationship. I had to take myself out of that society and figure out what love meant and looked like for me, to me, what's best for me, not for the general public. Because when I'm trying to live and do it by everybody else's rules, I'm not going to find what's unique to me and who's meant for me, because I'm out here trying to
I
play
agree.
keep up with the Joneses. So how can you ever meet somebody authentic if you're not being authentic yourself?
And that goes
But
for
we are being
men. Like
well, hold on. We are being authentic. We're being authentic enough to be intimate with you. And after we're intimate with you,
But if that's for every
we
woman,
already checked off a list of boxes for you, right? After we're intimate with you, that means we already checked off a list of boxes for you, which you see positive qualities in us to potentially become a partner or a mate in the future. But
so
then
when
this is where things start to turn, because after we're intimate with you, it then becomes your turn to kind of put in the work to see, okay, I'm having sex with him. Do I want him to be a partner? And how does that look for him? Because we don't, after we're intimate with you, we can leave, we can stay. It really doesn't matter to us.
So that commitment right there that you just said, that's a social contract to which invalidates the woman and then also doesn't allow him to have a lasting experience. So if we're talking about dating and you're saying that this is how people are, I'll give you an example. A gentleman I was talking to this evening, and he literally said, I am tired of the mindless and the connectionless sex. I can have it, but I'm constantly chasing for more of what I'm not getting from the sex. So the intimacy part that you're talking about does not have to be sex. And so when you have a gentleman who decides to have sex with me, guess what? It is a mutual decision. It's not an idea for me to put work on me and say, oh, now I have to chase you, because then you're putting emotional work on the actual potential partner and you're not meeting them. This is the relationship is not, it will
Here's
never.
what I'm saying. I'm saying that when it before you even look at a man as a potential partner, most women are gonna want to be intimate with him. Like they're not gonna. Okay, most women are gonna want to be intimate with their potential partner before he actually becomes their partner.
No. We'll just say no. And I feel like maybe that's a misconception that men have about women.
All right, so let me ask you this: Have you
Might be
ever?
a common thing, but I don't
Have
know if
you
it's
ever
being
gone
a
into a
leader
relationship
weird
with
or
somebody? Wait, hold on. Have you ever gone into a relationship with somebody that you haven't had sex with?
I'm sorry, wait, repeat that one more time.
Have you ever gotten into a relationship with someone that you haven't had sex with?
I actually had a long distance relationship and I never physically touched him, never kissed him, and it was over a year and some change. And we had a very connected experience. We went to therapy together. We actually had a lot of growth. I helped him grow his business. He was helping me nurture my business. And it was a year and a half. He never flew to see me. I never flew to see him. We were never, ever in the same place to even have intimacy in that physical capacity. So it is very possible. And people
So
do
why
that
did the relationship end?
because we came to a space of growth, because while we were going through, and that's what I said, people have to process their trauma. When you come into a meeting, a relationship with somebody, you come into a new person. Now that that new person is unveiling, you're going to come across challenges that you never had to deal with other relationships, and it's going to challenge your inner core as to this person really is getting under my skin. But you would have never had that variable if you weren't in that relationship with that person. And so when we came into going through, like, the reason why we went to therapy was that he and I had this kind of butting of heads, and I said, "Ooh, we need some professional support to help us." We went to therapy
Tell me,
and it
you guys
uncovered.
were butting heads and weren't even intimate?
So that was the thing. You have trauma in any part of your life, right? And so he was feeling unheard. And that's the part. If you're feeling unheard and your partner isn't hearing you, what do? You quit? You find tools in which to help support the relationship. And so we asked a professional to say, hey, this is what's happening. How can we navigate this? And she provided us tools. We actually were able to communicate better because we had professional tools to help us to actually open up areas in which we both didn't explore unless we were with each other. Through our therapy, he then uncovered and unveiled parts of him that were traumatic and impactful to his relationships. His mother and his relationship, his father and his relationship, they all made a difficult place for him to connect to people because they didn't actually connect to him because they were emotionally immature. So when he discovered that, he couldn't handle having a relationship because he had to process himself. So I respect that.
Hold on.
Handle.
I'm gonna give my thoughts on that. I just think you guys were really good friends. I don't think I can really consider that a relationship.
I
Wow.
don't
Since
think,
it
I don't think anybody's in a
between
position
you,
to speak on anyone else's relationship as well, either until validate or invalidate someone else's experience and the intimacy they felt just based off of a 30-second exchange. I just want to pitch that in there.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm just giving my thoughts on it. Like I think you
But
guys are
that's the
really.
thing.
I'm not saying you guys
You're
didn't have a relationship, but I think you guys were just really good friends.
But that's the part where and that's what Jordan just said, you're invalidating an experience where he said, I would like to be exclusive with you and I would like you to be my girlfriend. So if he says that and I say yes, why is it that someone else external of our relationship deems our relationship what it is? It's not. That you don't, no one
No,
has
you
that
can
place.
listen. You can think what you want. I'm just giving you my male brain thought point of it. I just think you guys are really good friends, and it sounded like a very good relationship, but it ended regardless. So
But relationships are not supposed to be forever. That's the part where also society puts it in that you have to meet the one and be with them forever, or you have to find your forever person. And to be honest, you find different loves throughout your life, and it doesn't have a time frame, because that's the other part too.
wait, hold on. Let me add Juliet to this conversation.
Hey,
Juliet, how are you?
thanks for having me.
No
Good
problem.
evening, everyone.
Good
Hi.
evening.
Hi,
Why don't we
Jordan.
do a
Hi,
quick
Aliyah. Well,
Why don't we do a quick introduction? Let's start with your name, age, what do you do for work, your education, and your relationship status.
okay, so my name is Juliet. I'm staying here in Toronto. People call me Jules. I'm of age. I just turned 42. I'm a
Hello.
single. Yeah, I'm of age. Anyway, yeah, I just turned 42. I'm a single mom. I have a kid. He's 20 years old. Yeah, I took up my master's. I graduated magna cum laude. I took up my Six Sigma green belt. I took up Scrum Master. I took up supply chain. I I took up everything, and I'm now taking up PMP. I took up advanced project management and strategic leadership, and now I'm a professor in one of the colleges in Ontario.
Okay,
So
nice.
I'm s-
And what's
well,
your
I'm
relationship
I'm
status?
single, but how do I say that? Technically, I'm still married. I'm single for 5 years. So I was married for 20 years. My ex-husband was my first boyfriend, and it didn't work out. He found another one much way younger than me, and he left. So we're not yet divorced. He hasn't signed a divorce paper, although I sent it to him. I'm just waiting for his signature. I really wanted my freedom, but yeah. So I'm assuming I'm single. I'm assuming I'm single, right, Aliyah?
Okay. So you said you were married. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What's one thing he did wrong in the relationship, and what's one thing you did wrong in the relationship?
Oh yeah, I think that's a good question, Will. It took me a while to realize some things, right? I think it goes both ways. It takes two to tango. Yes, he cheated. He cheated numerous times, and um perhaps I may have done something that I should have not done. I should have been more understanding, or I don't know, I should have been more submissive, if I may say. I really don't know. But he left. He left. He found another woman. He cheated several times. I stayed with the family. I love my family. That's what I have. And that's my priority. My family, my kid, him. But yeah, he left.
Okay.
So
So, did you initiate the divorce or did he?
I did. After 4 years, I realized I
You got
wanted my
tired of the cheating.
freedom. I'm sorry.
I said you got tired of the cheating.
Yeah, no, he left me. I stayed for 1 year in the Philippines. I begged for him to stay. I tried to fix the family. I talked to the mistress, but I just can't do anything anymore. The relationship was so
Oh.
deep enough for him to left me and my son. So I was depressed for a year. And then after I came into senses, I decided to move here in Toronto to start a new life.
Now,
And
one thing I would say is that, I don't vouch for any man leaving his family. When you have a son and then a wife who really cares about you and is willing to work on things, I don't really vouch for any of that.
mhm.
You, as a man and as a married man, you have a commitment that you must uphold in your relationship. So that's unfortunate for you, Juliet. But let's continue with this topic. I don't know if you heard, Julie, we're having a pretty intense discussion
I'm
about
listening. I'm listening to
dating.
Aliyah and Jordan and to everyone.
But yes, let's get into the topic. I have a question for all of you lovely ladies on the panel today. Is it important for men to lead in the relationship? And tell me your thoughts on why you think it is or isn't. Let's Leah, do you want to go first?
I'm gonna say no, because this this patriarchy type man, the head of the household, leading and all of that, it is direly over publicized, overrated, over articulated for no good reason. And I say this because there is a lot of people that actually have really good skill sets and can't be the males. Like they're very beta. But you have alpha females that can lead, but society doesn't have her leading the household. But then if we look at the statistics of the US, huh?
You said alpha females?
Yes.
Oh. Okay.
Yes, there's such a thing.
I don't believe in alpha males or alpha females. I don't.
But then leading, who leads the tribe?
I don't think
who leads
anybody,
the tribe? that's a part where when you get into leadership, you have alphas that are actually leading. That's a synonymous thing that you're saying. Who should lead, right? It's the alpha that should lead. It's actually in any pack, it's the alpha that leads. So when you come to any other type of position, it's not the child, it's not the grandparents, it's not the aunts and uncles, it's the head of the household. What does that look like? So that's why I say I don't think it should be a man that's actually, it shouldn't be put the expectations on a man, because that's another thing too. There's a lot of men that have pressure and also suffer suicide and suffer depression because there's such a high standard that they should lead and that they should be the head of the household, that they should be doing, and they don't actually have the ability to be soft or to be not the breadwinner or the one that's actually taking care of everybody. And when you have men that literally have heart attacks because they have too much pressure to be the family man that's over everything, it's because they have to live up to the societal standard that they have to lead the family. And in actuality, some people don't actually want to do that. So I think
I think you're confusing. All right, I think you're confusing lead with like taking on all the burden, right? A good leader knows how to delegate tasks. So when you are the leader of the household, you have your wife who's second in command. You delegate some of the responsibilities of the house onto her, so you don't have all that burden on yourself as a man. Because as a man, we do go through a lot, and we have the highest suicide rate in the nation. So that's true, of course. But as a good leader, and a good trait of a leader is to delegate responsibilities of the house. So,
but where do you learn your delegation skills from? As a male, where do you learn your delegation skills from?
you can learn your delegation skills at work. You can learn your delegation skills through your father or another male role model.
And so if we look at the statistics of males and families, if we look at the statistics of the type of dynamic and we'll just stick to the US. If we look at the dynamic of statistics, most males come from single families, and single families being
Most
women
males
that
come
are
from single families.
Single mothers,
single parent household.
so single parent household, and because it's tied to the incarceration rate, right? So we get into different statistics if we're going to say
males
that.
in prison come from single.
No, most
household.
males, we'll talk even African Americans. Most African Americans, most males in the United States that are in a minority population come from a single family household. And that comes from a single family household because statistically and also systemically, men are more incarcerated at a higher rate. So you don't have fathers at home. You don't have leaders in communities. You have women that are teaching them exactly what they need to be later on. So if you don't have a woman who is a... Go ahead.
But then you're talking about you're talking about the men. Okay, so the stat that I think that you're referring to, and I've heard about this too, is that like 70-80% of the incarcerated men, the degenerates of society, right, are raised from single mother households.
No,
And that,
that's not what she was
that
saying.
but that's the stat that I'm bringing up that I think that you're trying to relate to, because I don't
No,
know if that
I'm
all males come from, like, most males come from single
so I
Most men
would
single.
are
definitely.
raised in a household by a mom, is what she's saying. Most men are raised in single parent households where the mother is the primary caregiver. The mother takes care of the home. She takes care of the kids. She takes the kids to school. And the reason that it is the mother raising the kids, raising the men that you're talking about, is because statistically the fathers are not there. So the mother is taking on the head of household alpha role, raising the kids, running the household, doing X, Y, and Z because dad's not there. So she's tying that in. The mom's the alpha leading the household because dad's
Mhm.
gone for whatever reason. She's teaching those
Is that?
sons.
But who's
So
who? All
those
right.
sons are
So
learning delegation from mom. They're not learning it from a male or
right.
another alpha male, is what
No, I
she's
understand that. I understand that. But when you look at the statistic of who initiates the divorce in marriages, it's women. It's overwhelmingly women.
because
70
men,
to
they
80%
don't
of
want to be
the
stuck with men
divorces.
that treat them like shit. Or
No,
cheat
but
on them and
but
leave them with their baby.
regardless of that, they're the ones breaking the relationship between the mother and the father.
The father
So
already
when you
broke
look
it.
at that stat, the women are leaving the relationship, so they're choosing to be single rather than staying in the committed relationship. Sorry.
But we have an example of Juliet. Literally, we have an example of Juliet
Right.
literally asking to be released
Why
from
would you
being
want to stay in a committed
emotionally
relationship?
right. Emotional abuse that literally he has abandoned all obligation. We have an example literally here that is not that statistic. Whereas men who
Well, that's
are,
just one example. You can't. She might be
but
an exception. So
that's the part where if
Not
you're
anymore.
going to use,
Nobody gets a divorce for no reason. Nobody gets a divorce out of the blue for no reason.
you
Husband
have
is
to use,
there's always a reason. But what I'm saying is that when you're talking about single mother households raising the men who are incarcerated, most
I said,
times.
I said specifically, there's a systemic system that there's a systemic occurrence that's happening, an event that's happening within the states. And this is where, statistics are a thing. So you have your statistics, and then there's other statistics that are existing outside of what you know. And that's when, if you understand the other systems that are at play, which is women are not raising incarcerated men. They're not raising juvenile delinquents. They are raising children to whom are targeted. They are targeted to make sure that guess what? It's been that way since the United States became the United States, because the black male is a lot more stronger and powerful to dismantle the black family. So when we have those statistics where more black men are incarcerated, targeted, profiled, all of that, killed even because they are just existing, then you have the fact that there are women that have to take the lead. And it's not men necessarily taking the lead because they don't want to. It's men not even given the chance to be the lead. That's why I say it can't be a male or female thing. When you're being raised by a single woman, my son is not a delinquent. And I'm pretty sure Juliet's son is not going to be a delinquent either at a 20-year-old. But at the same time, I and Juliet have to teach leadership roles to them because I have to actually be the lead. And
I
that's where
don't
we
think a
have to
woman can
consider.
ever teach a boy how to be a man, though, and that's kind of the problem we have in. And I would say this for the black community is that we think that a black mother can replace the black father, and it's not true. You can't teach a boy how to be a man. You definitely can't teach him how to be a black man.
But that's not the role that, like she's saying, the mother is the starting point of your son is even kids in general. They observe you, they're learning from you, you're teaching them through your actions, through your words, and through those things. That's not. I don't feel like that's quite the same.
Okay. I think I have an unpopular opinion here. Let me just clarify. The reason why I left is because I had no choice. If I'd given a chance and he never cheated and if he decided to stay in the family, I'd still stick with the family. However, to answer your question, Will, I still believe I came from a very conservative background, and I was born and raised in the Philippines. And I always believe that the right men or right men should lead the family, and women were here to make the house a home. We're here to support our husband. We're here to motivate him and inspire him. And yeah, basically, we're not slaves. It's just that um all of my acts of service are actually, I'm doing all of this because of love. So for example, back home, when our husband comes home, we make sure that there's a good dinner for the family. Food is hot, his clothes, house clothes are ready, shower is ready, house is clean, kids are fed. We did our assignments together, and I'm there to sit down with my husband to ask how his day was. So actually, for us, when the man is in his masculine, and we're there to support him and respect him, he actually does better. He makes, he's actually the pillar of the house. He will let the man lead the house. So for example, if there's a big decision in the family, yes, we still have a voice. However, the man has the last say, as long as he's the rightful person. He's responsible, he loves our family, he loves my children. I respect, I have high regard for men. And I've always believed in equality. However, I know that it's really not equal for me. I really need men in my life. There are things that they can do that I really can't do. And yeah.
And
And I
it's
have my own strength. I have
No,
my
no,
own strength as
wait.
a woman. I have my own feminine, energy that may complement his masculine energy.
Yes. Let me say one thing. So you brought up a lot of great points. Taking care of the household, catering to your man, being that person who motivates him and inspires him is something that all value that men look for and search out for in a woman and in a long-term partner. Also, you said that we're not equal, and I don't know how Leah or Jordan will feel about this, but in reality, men and women are not equal. And I don't say this as a dig towards women that they're weaker than
I'm
us.
not
But
diminishing my role as a woman, okay? That's not what I mean. All I'm saying
right,
is that men, it's really different. For me, I look up to men as the one who leads the house. And I'm
exactly.
there to nourish the house, to nourish my home.
So right. So when we say that, or when I say that men and women are not equal, it's not a dig at women to say that they're weaker than us,
No,
but
no.
rather we're complementary. So
Yes.
we go together, and it's like two puzzle pieces that just fit within each other
Yes.
if the roles are set in place,
Yes.
where a man leads and the woman follows. Now, do you
Yes.
have
not
those
the dynamic
relationships
for
where
everything, though.
the woman leads and the man follows? You do, but for the most part, those relationships don't really last because that puts the woman in her masculine frame. And from what we know from a history of humans being on planet Earth, women don't tend to do well being in their masculine and providing for a man. I don't think any woman wants to provide for a man or should have to provide for a man.
Give me a historic example of this so I can know.
Of
Sometimes
men
it's
of men leading.
No, a historic example of women being in their masculine power that it didn't work out well. I
I,
haven't heard
I
that.
mean, can you give me a relationship that it does work out well?
Huh?
America
There's
became
no
what it
there's no public
was.
figure out there where it does work well, where you see a woman providing for a man and it's a successful relationship.
America became what it was because of Elizabeth. Elizabeth and Ferdinand, nobody really knows about Ferdinand. They know about Elizabeth. And the reason why Christopher Columbus actually got his boats to be able to go over, it was because Elizabeth championed it. So when we talk about roles in history, queens actually ran the Jones. But when you come into knowing the history, go to Sevilla, Spain, go to Alicante, Spain, go to Granada, Spain. Actually, go to Granada and you learn about the Moors.
We're talking about
Queen Elizabeth.
relationships though.
Queen Elizabeth and Ferdinand are a relationship that actually the power dynamic was in her favor and not his. You do not know about Ferdinand, you know about Queen Elizabeth. You don't know, and that's where I tell you, in history, America became what it was because of Queen Elizabeth.
Okay, let's take it out of those are real big political figures, right? Okay, great. And they might be the exception to the rule, but can we agree on that most relationships, most successful relationships happen because the man is leading and he's providing for the family and his woman? Like,
no, because now I feel like we're narrowing the scope to heteronormative and heterosexual relationships. If it's two men in a relationship or two women in a relationship or two men, which man leads? It's a code.
we're talking about heterosexual relationships. I don't even want to dive that deep.
They
But
say
I mean,
that
it's
every
not fair of us.
successful man is a woman. There's a woman.
It's not fair of us to narrow the scope to just heterosexual relationships. I don't feel like that's fair. As someone who identifies as bisexual, as someone who identifies as bisexual, if I have a girlfriend, okay, who's the masculine one?
Well,
when
let
I'm
me
in a
ask you.
relationship with a man, no, it changes who takes the leadership, because he might be naturally good at one thing, and through our partnership, I'm going to allow him or her to take the lead. But when it's my turn, and when I'm the one that's the natural leader, or I'm the one that's more well versed in a topic or something, it should be my turn to take the lead. And that's just
let me ask you something, Jordan.
As a partner, and knowing your partner's strengths, and knowing that you can have that balance of, okay, sometimes it's going to be me. Okay, sometimes it's going to be you. Because sometimes I'm not going to be at 100%. Sometimes he's not going to be at 100%. And either person will have to pick up the slack. So.
Well, let me ask you, do you want to provide for a man? A full-bodied, able working man. Would you want to provide for him?
I mean, that's a whole... In what sense? Like, he sits on his butt all day and plays video games while I cook, clean, and work? No. But no man wants to do that for a woman. But nobody wants to do that for anybody.
But we don't have a problem with it. If we know that a woman's at the house taking care of the house, we wouldn't have a problem with her not willing to work.
But it wasn't taking care of the house. You didn't say I'm providing while he cleans and does his part at home. You just said, I'm taking care of him. So I'm asking, in what aspect am I taking care of? Is he just sitting on the couch, or is he adding some type of value? Is he cleaning the house? Is he doing the stuff I can't do because I am home? I'm a business owner. I might have to travel. I might have to go to conferences. I might have to host workshops. I might have to do X, Y, and Z. He might have to pick up the slack.
So would you want a man who, okay, let's say, cleans the house and washes the dishes? You would have to provide for him fully because he doesn't want to work.
Doesn't want to work? We probably wouldn't even be together.
Doesn't want to work. He doesn't want to work.
And we wouldn't be together. We wouldn't be together because that's not what I prefer for myself. But there might be some women.
So how are you vouching for something that you don't even want?
Because it's not just about me. It's not, because it's not just about me. There are sugar mamas out there that literally just give people money for time and attention.
Now we can't talk about sugar mamas. Sugar mamas,
that's taking care of them. They ain't doing nothing.
No,
there are some like
sugar mamas are such little men qualified to be in a sugar mama's position that it's kind of insignificant at this point. We're talking about, for most relationships, most successful relationships, when the man leads, the family benefits from that. You know, he has no problem. Most men who are successful have no problem taking care of their family and wife. But if you flip it and you have the woman who is the breadwinner and just providing for a man who's at home, she's not going to like that most times.
Sometimes nothing wrong with that. Sometimes we have to do that depending on the situation. Like when the man gets sick, for example, if there's an accident, of course we have to step up and help him and help the family. But if given a chance, I would want to be taken care of. Provide for my family. If he's the right man, then he can work as long as he wants. Then I'll do the grocery and cook dinner for the family and take care of the family. I want that. Yeah. Although I have my career, but we're not obliged to provide for the family. Yes, I can help my husband, but I'm not obligated, and I'm not a slave because I have a good career as well. It's just that I prefer to be taken care of and to be provided for and take care of. I'm a professor outside of my house. I took up my master's, but when inside the house, I'm the wife.
But
And
now
he's
you're in an interesting perspective because now you are the head of household and you don't have your husband there with you. Now you are the head of household.
yeah.
You're leading it. You are doing the cooking. You are doing the cleaning. You are taking care of
Mhm.
it. You are doing
Mhm.
all of it. So you really have kind of a twofold perspective that
Yeah, my husband, my son is with my mom back home. However, even if he left us for another woman, I never say no whenever he wants to visit my son, because that's his obligation as a father.
right.
So I
That's
let
great.
him see my son.
Definitely.
Mhm.
So,
So
so this that goes into my next point. Um, you guys are pretty much all single right now, so you guys are on the dating market. I want to get your thoughts and opinion on this. What percentage of men do you think are capable of leading the household right now, currently?
In what aspect do you mean leaving the household?
So, out of the men that you've dated, do you think, oh, maybe 20 out of like 10 guys that I've dated, two of them were, I would say, capable of like me submitting and following them? So that'd be
so
like 20.
I have a counter question for you. Since we're celebrating Women's Month and we're
Okay.
celebrating the power of women, um, the act of submission means that there is a suppression of self to be second to someone, right?
Yes.
Why do we consider their ability to lead a family? Because if we consider them leading a family, they have to not lead it just financially, but they have to be emotionally sound. They have to
True.
be able to raise emotionally intelligent children that actually can connect to their emotions. There's so much more to it. So when it comes down to people who can lead, it's you can't see that from swiping. So I want to almost say, how do we get people ready to actually be leaders? Because that's the other thing too. If you're in the dating market and you've never been married, you don't even know if you can lead a family. You've never actually done it. So I can't even judge you based off of he can lead a
So, all
family.
right.
He can
Before
lead a
we
family.
before we get into that, simple question. I won't even ask for a percentage. Do you think most men are capable of leading? Yes or no?
No. I'm nah.
I mean, it's fine to say no.
Yeah, no.
What about you, Juliet? Are most men capable of leading?
I did date three men here in Toronto. I really don't know how to answer that question, but if I may say, for those men that I've dated, it just so happened that I expect them to lead. I let them take the lead. That's why they're leading. I'm giving that energy that you're courting me, you're pursuing me, so I let you take the lead. I think it's an instinct. It's natural. It's in our DNA. Just like us women, we're very we're very nourishing. It's in our DNA. Same thing with men. I think it's in their DNA.
All
However,
right. So I see what
I
you're saying.
only
You're
submit to
saying that.
the right person. Okay, if he's not a good man, then I don't waste my time as well.
I see what you're saying. You're saying that no matter the type of man that you date, he's
Mhm.
naturally gonna lead because you're naturally gonna follow.
Yes.
Got it. Got it. What about you, Aaliyah?
I'm gonna go with Jordan on this one. No.
You're gonna go with no. All right. So expand on that more. I want to know why you think men aren't capable of being a good leader.
I want to just say from the interactions I've had, because the conversations and even the approach, some of them are very disregarding, some of them are very disrespectful, some of them are just self-centered, some of them have no priority outside of their sexual needs. And so I want to say from the people that I have interacted with, very few of them even exhibit the capacity to be a human. Like they just have a very tunnel vision focus as to I want this, and once I get this, then no. The whole value system is from the beginning. How do you speak to me? When you say hello to me, how are you? Okay, I'm good. Oh, yeah, that's good. You want to meet up? Wait, what? Like, you don't even know what I look like or sound like, and you have no initiation to even build something. So if you don't have that initiation to even build conversation, what makes you think you could build a family? It's not even visible because you can't even use it on the initial. If you are a leader, when you work at a corporate job, your leaders don't actually, oh, go do that. They actually nourish you to grow into a better person, a better person in that position. They start with getting to know you. They get to know your strengths and your weaknesses. They can allow, they can provide you changes that allow you to grow even more in the company. They're nourishing you. But if you're saying that from me swiping, if you can lead, you should show that from day one that you could lead, because then you know how to get to know me. You know how to interact with me. You know how to actually have a conversation to know what my strengths and weaknesses are. You actually took an interest in me. As a leader, that's the difference between a boss and a leader. You have someone who bosses you around and, oh yeah, have sex with me and then I determine your value. No, a leader, a true leader will actually make sure to pull value out of you first and then compliment you with their value. But if that's the fact that I got to give you my value first and you didn't bring no value to the table, you're a boss. You're a bully. You're literally not considering me as a person. So again, all the interactions that I've had have not shown leadership capacities, even humanistic personality capacities. Like, no one is literally caring.
So yeah, most men are not leaders. All right. What about you, Jordan? Why'd you say no?
Also similar reasoning as far as my experiences and even just conversations with my guy friends who I'm not romantically involved with, and hearing the things that they deal with or they put up with or they put women through. The answer is just it's a solid no. I believe when you think about leadership and what it means and what it entails as far as leadership, like Aaliyah spoke to, we have in a corporate job, whatever, we have our big boss who hopefully looks at each of us for our strengths, for our weaknesses, for, what we add value to. But they're not dominating us in the sense, there's that ability to delegate, like we spoke about earlier. Okay, sometimes the big boss isn't going to be here, or sometimes the boss needs help. So we have to delegate those tasks to people that we trust and people that we know are going to take care of it. And we have faith in their ability to do those things. So just from my experiences and from what I see, and honestly, we talked a lot about emotional maturity and emotional intimacy. Your mind, body, and spirit are all connected. This is literally what I do for work. A alignment of the mind, body, and spirit. So you can be whatever, a great leader, but if you don't have that emotional maturity, the emotional intelligence to connect with people, to find value in people, to allow yourself to be vulnerable so they can find value in you, I don't think you have what it takes to be a leader, because being a leader is not about telling people what to do. It's another type of relationship, and all relationships are give and take and finding a balance that works for you. So I just don't think a lot of the men I know or have experienced or seen have qualities of like what I would expect out of a good leader, whether that's a leader of our country, leader of a classroom, leader in the workplace. Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be submissive because I can't follow someone that I don't know. I wouldn't feel comfortable following someone that I know is not genuine and they don't truly care and they're just here to boss you around and, do those type of things. Like, so.
I agree with all that.
I agree
So
with Jordan and Aliyah. Not everyone can lead. I'm talking about not only men but also women. Not everyone can lead. But if we're talking about those dating apps, yeah, same thing with Aliyah. Not everyone is a good person. Not everyone is a good woman or a good man. That's why it takes time for me to get to entertain people, because I have my own perception of standards, and if for me this is not the right man, then I will not entertain him. So because yeah, we have to find who's the right person or the right man to be able to lead the house or to lead the relationship. So yeah.
And just as far as the
yeah,
dating,
I just want to say one thing. So a lot of men are not good leaders. I would agree with all of you when you say that. And that's why I kind of wanted to create this podcast and get your feedback, get your opinions on that. We want to build more men and help them become better leaders.
It takes
But
time
with
to
that,
emotionally
with that,
mature,
yeah,
spiritually mature, financially, mentally mature, and
Yes.
yeah.
physically, you know,
And
um,
Aaliyah definitely spoke
With
to
that,
that. It's a
I
lot of
wanted to, ask one question. Would you guys be willing to be submissive or follow a man that you thought and knew was a leader?
yes.
Let's start with Juliet. I think I already know what you're gonna say, but
Yes, of course. If he's
yes.
the right person, if he's the right man, if he can lead the family, if he's emotionally, spiritually, and mentally secured and stable, and if we're equally yoked, then why not? I'd be more than happy to support him. I'd be more than happy if he can lead the family and lead the relationship, and I'd be more than happy to support him.
Okay. What about you, Jordan?
Sorry, say the question one more time, just so I make sure I heard you everything right.
Would you be willing to be submissive and follow the lead of a man you knew was a leader? Like he exhibited all those traits that you mentioned before.
Yes, because I feel like in that sense, he would also know. I feel like as a leader, you know when it's time for other people to lead.
Hmm.
So I just feel like that's the quality of being a leader. So if you're already naturally exemplifying that and exemplifying what it means to take care of, and then allowing me to also take care of when it's my turn, and you're okay with being the submissive one and switching those roles, then I would be okay with you being the leader. I know that's kind of like counterproductive, but I feel like it just goes hand in hand because that's what I would expect out of a leader. I don't expect them to lead me and pull the train ahead, 4 cylinders, 24 hours, 7 days a week. No, you can't do that. Nobody can do that. And I think that goes back to what Aaliyah talks about. It puts a lot of pressure on people as leaders. And so you definitely want to have that ability to have those people you can trust and be submissive to you, but you can in turn be submissive to them. So I would say yes. Short answer.
How do you want your man to be submissive to you? In what instance? What does that look like?
So basically, I feel like we have these certain connotations around the word leading and submissive, and we think submissive is like being meek and over
Yeah.
here, but it's not. It's sometimes
Yeah.
just taking the backseat role and letting somebody else drive the car. So I guess that's what I mean. Jordan is actually having a partner that's like, you know what? I could really do this, but I know that Jordan is really, really great at it. And I know she would probably kill it. And I trust her to do it. And I value her. And I know that's somebody I love. So I'm going to let her take the lead and I'm going to take a step back. So in that.
I mean, I think that's a big part of like delegating too, and just knowing like as a leader and as a man of your household, like what's on your plate and what you can tackle for that time being or that situation.
And same as Juliet said, also in the role of wife or girlfriend, being like, I could probably do this, but I could use a little help. All right. I know my boyfriend, my husband knows a little bit more about this than me. Let me ask him and take his consideration. And yeah, sometimes that's hard. But I feel like when you have that open relationship and that open dynamic with your partner, it's easy to have that exchange because it's not like you're asking a stranger. So.
All right. Last but not least, Aaliyah, what do you think? Are you gonna
I'm
be submissive to that man who exemplifies all those
um
traits?
I'm definitely I'm gonna probably call the cosign on Jordan in regards to like submission and leadership have really bad connotations. And for what it stands for today, if I were to just say I'm being submissive, they're not going to pick up Jordan's definition. They're going to pick up beta and alpha, and they're going to pick up, someone who is weaker and who is inferior to a superior party. And that, I think, is why I don't say yes, because it's not commonly known and defined and actually discussed and delved into. Is very surface and superficial. And so when it comes down to that, if I have to explain to you the definition, I'm not that thing. But if you understand it and we both mutually understand that's what it is as a society, because everyone agrees to it, then yes, I can go with it. And so when you talk about submission and leadership in a relationship, males leading the relationship, again, there's a whole conversation that needs to be had about what that really looks like and how it can nourish a relationship. And in today's society, it's not So it's a no, because the moment I tell somebody that I'm being submissive, especially if they are on certain origins of people where they actually demean women, I can't. Nope. I don't want to, because then at that same point is that now you have this conquest experience. You conquered, and now you're mine, and now we get into possessions, and now we get into unequal roles in the household, and that's where the balance is thrown off, because someone's doing more. It's not really the even exchange that it should be. There should be
Well,
mutuality.
all right. So I think a lot of times the word submissive gets associated as like, you being meek and weak. It's actually not that. I think it's actually just you being able to, as Julia said, to just take direction, follow somebody else. Why is it that you think you can't become that?
So I'm not religious, so I don't follow anybody, right? And I say that because in this walk of life, I want to be mutual with someone. I want to have a partnership. I want to have a companion, someone that is actually, we're in this journey together. Why? Because when you are learning about yourself and I'm learning about myself, we come back together and we meet in the middle and we continue to evolve as a couple. So when it comes down to this, you have to be in this mindset. I think that it puts a limitation on the growth of people and the growth of the relationship when it comes down to stifling with, you can't follow somebody. Well, what can you follow me? And now I have resistance because now,
Okay, wait,
okay,
hold on. A partnership in what way? What do you want to be 50-50 on in a relationship?
no, so that's the part about partnerships. They're never just 50-50, but they're never a hundred, they're never 90-10 or 100-0. A partnership, there is a balance in it. And that's why I like to use the term partnership versus because we are partners. We are in this together. There is not one person who comes
Partner,
flawed.
it's not really a partner, because when you say partners, that means you guys are running a business. Is your relationship a business?
So again, this comes to a definition that you choose, and again, I have to define as to why I'm using that terminology versus when we come into relationships. What do you think of when you think of relationships? In your definition, you think of a higher leader that leads a female, and there's certain checklist the male has to go through before a woman chases. From your definition of what a relationship is supposed to look like, it's not common space for everybody. But at the same time, if Jordan and I are telling you exactly the kind of partner and exchanges that we want to have with people, that's not common space for you. And so now we have very different definitions of what an actual relationship looks like. And so when I say partnership, it's not just business. You can have a partner in a lot of things. You can partner dance. Is that business? No. You can have a partner in different aspects and it's not just business. So the expansion
End
of
of
the
the
word
day,
itself.
are you willing to follow that man in your life? Like if he says, "Hey, yo, babe, I need this done," are you willing to do that
Again, that
without
comes into
questioning him?
the boss versus the leader. That comes into the boss versus the leader. It's if there is a mutual conversation of, hey babe, I need support here, here's where this works, versus, hey, I need you to go get the groceries, and yeah, can you do that? That's not considering what is possible for me to even do to fulfill that. That's charging people without even understanding what they're charged with. That's not okay. Like how like treating people is it's a mutual exchange, it's communication, it's understanding, it is actually finding and meeting them where they're at. So it's not a vague sense of, hey, I'm going to tell you what to do, you do it. Are you going to have a problem with when I tell you and command you to do stuff? Yes, I'm going to tell you, my resistance is yes. I do.
So wait, now I think you're um so when I talk about this man being a leader, he's also a provider. He's also a protector. He's also your emotional rock. He's everything you want in a man. So when he's asking you to do something, he's already providing so much for you that I don't think it should be an issue. We're not talking about someone who isn't doing those things for you. We're talking about someone, uh, to bring it back, is, you know, a protector, a provider, and is sharing his resources with you and the family. So if he's like, yo, yo, babe, I need this done, why would you be hesitant to get that done?
But I wouldn't even, that's a part of me being a partner.
What's your
I wouldn't.
intention when you're saying it? Are you saying, babe, I need this done, go do it? Or are you saying, babe, you know, I really got this thing going on, I got a couple of things going on, are you able to help me out? That's two different things.
So, all right. So it's not what he says, how he says it.
Yeah.
No, it's what you're intending. Are you intending it for me to be your child and listen to what you have to say without asking questions? Or are you intending it as your partner and you need some help?
But he's saying, yo, babe, I need you to get this done. Can you get this done?
But that's what she was telling you as to what is the tone and intention behind it. Is it the fact that
So tone, it goes
you
back
are-
to how he says it. It's like
It
how somebody says, yo, the sky is
It's
blue.
not how you say it, it's
Or if I say,
how you
the
mean
sky
it.
is
How you mean
the sky
it.
is fucking blue.
Do you
It's
mean
how
it?
I
in
say
the
it.
sense-
It's my tone.
So I'll say this, and I would definitely I want to honor this space because we want to talk about how to support men on what they can do to improve in the dating realm, right? And when it
Right.
comes down to us having this conversation, it is very much so targeted towards us accepting them and their flaws without change. And this is where we are
Sure.
both communicating and expressing that when it comes down to modern day relationships, not archaic, patriarch driven relationships, we're talking about right now our emotional needs and our overall well being is being met by our partner. It comes to the fact that it's not as simple as would you get something done. It's a matter of I would never put my partner in a space where he has such a charge and demand that he has to constantly live up to, because I know I'm impacting his mental health by putting that charge on him. So if he comes to me and he snaps at me like, babe, can you get this done? Either he's not he has an unmet need that I'm not paying attention to, or he's not able to communicate to me the fact that he's got pressure and he needs me to do it, or he's just being very mean and having me demanding me to do things because he has too much going on over there. That's where it
I
comes
would
down
agree.
to.
I would agree. You could break it down like that, but at the end of the day, that can come after the fact that after you get the thing done, then you can figure out what's going on, what's wrong with this day, what kind of issues he was going through, what kind of stress he had. But the main thing is, are you willing
And that's
to follow?
that is what's wrong with relationships. That is absolutely what's wrong with relationships, is that you charge somebody and dispose your emotional inepts onto a person, and then you want to talk about it after you cause the harm. You need to be able to come to your emotional state and to be able to communicate. I am not in a well space right now and I need your support. And this is why I need your support, versus charging somebody and then all of a sudden, oh, well, I had a bad day. That's why I told you what to do. No, that's not okay. And that's where the emotional intelligence and connectivity is shining so much as a demand for women nowadays, because males are very disconnected from their emotion, very surface as to being providers and filling these roles, and it makes them emotionally immature.
Mhm.
If
Right.
they are not emotionally sound, they're not able to communicate properly. That does not cause harm. Over 20 years of being in a relationship, one person could not tell another person that they no longer wanted to be in a relationship and that they found satisfaction somewhere else. So instead, they dragged them on for more years and are still dragging them on. That emotional immaturity, because they were self-centered and all about themselves, is also what makes a lot of men not consider women. And so again, it brings back to the full conversation of why we're, why we were invited here, is to help men to open up in spaces to be better partners, better daters, better people to want to be dated. And that's not one of them. That is not one of them, for us to be sitting here like, no, you be the leader, when you haven't even dealt with your emotional trauma. You haven't processed the things that are actually impeding you from being a good human being. And you can't even communicate because you are hurt. There's a lot of hurt people out there, and that's why people need envelopment. If they're not developing because they are emotionally disconnected, we're going to have continual cycles of people being hurt upon hurt upon hurt and hurting more people.
I lived it.
Perfect. I mean, I agree. I mean, I do think there's a lot of hurt within men and within women.
Same.
I think everybody should go to therapy. I went to therapy myself. I'm an advocate of therapy. But I think you're undermining the life of a man and what men go through on a day-to-day basis in the world. Um, our life can tend to be very stressful at times.
There's a disconnect there. I don't think she was undermining it. I think she was saying because of all you guys endure and because of all the pressure that are put on you, which she spoke to as well, you don't men often don't, men oftentimes do not take the responsibility and accountability upon themselves
Correct.
to heal those things that have them under so much pressure to deal with
No,
all the
yeah, I
shit they
understand
have
that.
to deal with,
It
which
goes both
ultimately
ways.
disconnects them and which affects their relationships with friends, family, etc.
I understand that. I understand that. But what I'm saying is that this man that we're talking about, right? That suits her. He's a protector, provider, and he asks you to do something. Maybe he's stressed out at the time. He doesn't really have the time to sit down and explain to you why he needs to get it done. He's just asking for that level of submissiveness, which it's okay if you can't provide that. That's fine. I mean, we're just gonna move on.
But
But
I would also never, me as a woman, I would also let's flip the roles. If the roles are reversed, I'm stressed out. I got business stuff. I'm doing this. You know, Juliet, she's a professor. She's making lesson plans. Aaliyah's trying to help out entrepreneurs. You're trying to build podcasts. You know, what if I'm stressed out? I would never, as someone who, if I'm looking at my partner, somebody I love and care about, I would never be like, babe, please go do this. I just need you to do it. Because I would never talk to my partner that way. I would never speak to somebody I love and care about that way. I'd say, babe, I'm a little frustrated right now. I have stuff going on. Like, could you please help me out with this project? I would never do that
you
because
guys
that's
really
not, I
can't get
take
past,
pride
you
in the
guys
way
really
that I
can't get
speak to
past
the
the
people that
tone,
I love.
the way the message is represented.
Huh?
So it's not just a message. She's actually saying if roles were reversed, and I literally know that me disposing myself onto you and having you doing something because of what hierarchy, out of patriarchy, out of standards that it's supposed to be this way. You're taking external factors outside of the relationship and bringing it in that you have to be submissive. According to who?
Right.
According to what
Nobody said you have to
standard?
be sensitive.
But that's
Nobody
the
said
question that
you don't have to do anything.
but that's the question that seems to be really heavy right now, is the fact that we are saying submissiveness or following a leader is conditional in the fact that we have to be partners to even consider if they're capable of doing that.
Yeah. I'm not just
And that goes
to men.
it goes for both sides. It's again what she said. If I'm stressed out, I'm not gonna sit here and go tell my partner to go do something because I'm gonna put my stress now onto him. I have to communicate to him exactly what she said. This is an example of, hey, I'm stressed out. What you're saying is you're telling them to do something first and then talk about it afterwards. Whereas
I think
I'll
But,
share I'll
but
share an
literally,
example
it
here.
wouldn't
I
talk
did
to
it
him
one
that
way.
way, though. It wouldn't cross my mind to speak to my partner that way.
I'll share an example
Somebody I
here.
love
This
like that.
this may be very unpopular to you, but again, I was born and raised in the Philippines where culture and values are very conservative. Back home, I remember when the husbands came home and for example, they're not in the mood or they're very stressed and they would tell the wives, "Hey, can you get me some water? Hey, can you give me some food? I'm hungry." The wife would just keep this is again this is based from my experience and my mother's and whoever's experience back home. The wife would just keep quiet, give the husband whatever he wants, let's say water or a dinner. We let them eat. That's what we do. We let them eat because we know that he's not in a good mood. If I fight with him, if I go straight with him and say, "Hey, what's the problem? Why are you doing this? Why are you asking me those? Why are you demanding me?" We're not going to resolve anything. So what my mom would tell us is that we quietly, let's say, feed them or massage them or whatever, and then the next day or the following day, if they're in a good mood, then we will sit down and talk to them. So for us to
Exactly.
avoid confrontations, for us to avoid fights, which is sometimes, even I have my own bad day, and my ex-husband would just keep quiet. We how do we say that? We give way. We just give way. We don't make things complicated. Like for example, Will, "Hey Juliet, I'm hungry. Can you give me some food?" Okay, I'll give you food. Actually, it's still hot. I've just freshly cooked the food, and this is your water and everything. I let you eat. I let you rest. I let you sleep. Then tomorrow morning, while we're having coffee, I'll maybe check you if you're in a good mood, and then I'll tell you, you know what, Will, last night I felt bad when you do this. Then he will understand. That's what we do
Exactly.
back home, and it's
And
working. I don't know, it's working.
I think, Julie, you brought up a great point, and that goes back to what I was saying about how men handle stress and pressure differently. So I don't think I don't, like you were saying how we don't endure it enough or something like that. But really, men handle stress differently, and this goes back to women and men just being different but complementary. If you were that submissive woman, you would understand that your man was going through a stressful point at that time. And maybe that's why he asked it in that way or in that tone.
Because
But it
sometimes
doesn't
people think submissive in a bad way. I'm not actually being submissive.
exactly,
I'm more of like understanding the
That's what I was
situation.
going to say. Submissive is not understanding.
Mhm.
Understanding and submission are
Understanding
two
or
the
different things.
situation and allowing him to have that moment, and then the next morning maybe I could just talk to
yeah,
him
let me
instead.
finish. Yeah. So it's not about the way, the tone, and the way that he said it. It's about how you react to it. And if you're gonna react in a way where you think you're feeling attacked and you're gonna attack back, I think that doesn't show emotional intelligence either.
I wouldn't
'Cause
attack
emotional
back.
intelligence would be able to understand that your man's going through something and he's under a stressful situation and that he's asking you to get something done.
My
And
man
then
should never be
if he
so
wants to
stressed that he's disrespecting me.
wait, hold on one second, because Julia just brought up her whole example that she showed you, and she handled it in a much better way and in a much feminine way where she didn't explode on him and he got the point at the end of the day. So in future reference, you probably wouldn't do that again.
I'm not saying it's right, okay? It's just that that's what's working for me.
So this is
And
the part
that's
where
I think that's a lot of that key point right there, and that aspect of being feminine is what men are kind of searching for nowadays. We don't really get
Yeah, they
that.
want someone to boss around because it's easier
they
for
I don't think that's bossing around. That's just
what it
someone
is.
following our
You
lead.
just you basically just said it's okay for a man to talk to me however he wants to, depending upon how he
No,
feels.
I
And to
didn't. No, I didn't. No,
But
I didn't.
no,
No, I
she
didn't.
basically did because
No.
you're saying, oh, you have to understand if he's had a bad day. My man's day should never be so bad that he has to speak to me in a way that's disrespectful to somebody he loves or claims to love. Babe, I've had a bad
abuse
day. Babe, I've had a bad day.
abuse is not love. Abuse is not how we speak
Can't make
verbally
this shit up.
abusive.
You can't make this shit up.
It's not. It was the tone and the way he said it that you guys can't get over. Go. Have
I
you guys
don't
heard
think it's
Emma?
about me. I don't think he's disrespecting me. I think he's just having a bad day. So it's I don't think he's disrespecting me. I
But
don't.
your
Wait, hold on.
displacement is not made, it's not your displacement of stress is never and should never be targeted to your partner. So how you snap at your person, it's like checking your attitude at the door. If you're having a bad day, it shouldn't you come home and meet his wife with a kiss. What
Oh,
happened to her? Hey, thanks, babe. I love you. I'm so glad to see you. You have any water around here? Like, it's a
No,
matter of
because
it's
the
not
way
just
I
the
said it wasn't
tone.
even disrespectful. I said, "Yo, babe, can you get this done for me?" But you guys are taking it in a whole different context.
We're telling you
In
exactly the
this coincidence,
experience
you
we
guys are
don't want
taking
to
it that way,
have.
and Juliet's taking it a different way. And I think that just
And I
shows
feel
like
like you're accepting Juliet's way because that aligns with your way of thinking. But
Mm.
there's a lot of friction when it comes to me and Aaliyah's way and the experiences that we're trying to tell you about.
And that comes to the
you
fact
guys
that
are
she
more
just said
concerned
it.
about the
It's
tone and the way the message is
it's
like
not. It's not
received
because she said
than
it
you are on the
culturally.
point.
She said it culturally. She has dealt with it. She's watched her aunts and grandmothers and aunts and uncles do the same thing. They have literally stifled their emotional expression. If they did not like something, they would have said, I'm not going to say nothing now because they don't want to ruffle the feathers. And then they'll wait
no,
till tomorrow and maybe say something. And then if they maybe say something, they're trying to see if they're walking on eggshells.
no, I don't think so. We're not walking on
I don't
eggshells. It
think so
just so
either.
happened that
Agree
I
with that.
know when and how should I talk to him.
That's eggshells.
It's my choice not to deal with him that night, because I want to make sure that my house is a home, is and it's a safe place for everyone. So
That is
even if he's
literally.
having a bad day, I just let him be, because that's my decision. But that doesn't mean that I'm walking on an eggshell, or I'm scared of him, or I'm allowing him to disrespect me. Of course not. It's just that I know how do I try to, how do you say that, balance the energy in the family, and want to make sure that my house is a home for everyone.
So
And then
you're
the
doing.
next morning, when after he, for example, have a good night rest and everything, I sit down with him, I talk to him. You know what happened last night? I don't like the way you speak to me, and I wanted to know what's wrong with you. If there's something that bothers you, is there any way that I could make you feel better or make your day lighter? I talk to him in a very mature way. I
But
don't
just
allow him to disrespect me, or I'm not walking on an eggshell. No, not at all.
so it
All
comes
right,
down to
Leah,
the
stay with
fact that
me.
when you say that you literally you have uh the reception of him coming home in a
Mhm.
disgruntled space, and then you having to wait to talk to him tomorrow, that part of him coming to
Maybe
you is.
even before we go to sleep. It depends. It depends. I just check if he's, because if he's mad, then what's the point of discussing? We're not going to fix anything, right?
He needs to be able to be emotionally mature and emotionally responsible with his emotions.
Yes.
That's the whole point of me. It's he can come to you and be frustrated, but how
Yes.
he handles his emotions, how he handles his approach to you, he is responsible for,
Of
not
course,
your
he cannot
response
do
to
that
his
every time.
emotions.
He cannot do that
So
every time. Of course. It's just so happened that we're all human. Sometimes I also do that. Sometimes I also feel that way. I go home in a bad mood. And my ex-husband would understand. It's just a give and take. But he cannot do it every now and then. Then that's his attitude, right? But if it's just one day and he's having a bad day, yeah.
I think it is a give and take, and the balance
Mm.
of that kind of depends on everybody's relationship. But I have a video that I want to play for you guys, and I want to get your reaction to it. So let me share my screen. Okay. Can you guys see this all right?
Oh yeah.
Aaliyah, can you see it?
It's not playing.
Leah, can you see the screen? You with us?
I can see it, but it's not playing.
It's not playing.
It's not playing. All right. So this is Kevin Samuels. Rest in peace to the Godfather. He left us some wisdom that I'm gonna play for you all.
Go under the umbrella of men are bad people. Men are to be looked out for. You can't trust them. They're going to hurt you, abuse you, or whatever, whatever. Why are you going to go into any interaction with mankind in an open way? By definition, if you can't be used, you're not feminine. Feminine women are useful women. Masculine women are not useful. Masculine women are competitors. This is why when you sit around and deal with a masculine woman, you feel drained. It's because you're actually in conflict with these women. You automatically go under.
All right. So that was a clip from Kevin Samuels, basically just describing differences between a masculine and a feminine women. Feminine women are useful. A masculine woman you're kind of in competition with, and
I think it
Aaliyah,
depends.
I think that goes to your point when you tried to bring up the partnership sort of relationship.
I think
I
it
think
depends, Will, because sometimes I also need to be in my masculine energy. Again, I'm a single mom and I have to be strong for my son, right? I also have to provide for my son and discipline with my son. That's when I know that I need to use my masculine energy. So it's just an energy. However, in the relationship, I prefer to be on my feminine side. However, if the need arises, for example, my partner got sick or he's not able to lead the family, then I have to step up. I have to use my masculine energy. So it's really fleeting. Sometimes you need it's more of like a balance for me. But at the end of the day, what I'm just saying is that I see men as the leader of the house. I respect men. However, he has to be a good man. I'm not talking about drunkard men or men that are using drugs and all. I'm talking about a good man.
Of course.
Then he
Yeah.
leads. Yeah.
So Aaliyah, what's your thoughts on that video?
We have very different views, and it's so crazy because I was like, oh, the topic of conversation was how to help men be better daters, right? How to help people be dateable, right? And when we think about masculine and feminine, why are women in their masculine? Why are women? Because both of them exist.
Just tell
Women
me
have
why
masculine
do
and feminine.
you think they are?
Well, apparently, if males are not being masculine, who's going to do the job, right?
Yes. Yes.
If you
Yep.
come down to a woman is in the masculine, well, okay, cool. We can talk about how many of them are sex driven and they only are good for procreation or sexual interaction, but in very many of them are not leading communities or people.
Correct.
Like we had a plethora of Black leaders that were males. Where are they now? So when it comes down to people throwing fits because you make me emasculated or you make me feel emasculated, I'm not competing when I say I have a partner. I'm having an exchange that balances us because I don't want to be in my masculine and I don't want to just be in my feminine. Just like I don't want you to be all the way masculine and disconnected from your feminine, because guess what? You need to have both to interact with people. You can't just have masculine and feminine and total. No, that's why you have men that are not in leadership roles. You have a lot of men that are literally not leading communities because guess what? There's too much pressure to do so with little support. And so when we come into these conversations of having a female support a male to be more, to be more of themselves, they have to actually want it. They have to actually want to be the leaders. And you got a lot of men that don't want to. So when they're having to deal with a masculine woman who's actually challenging them to actually be the masculine, what do? They insult them. They tell them, no, I don't want to compete with you. They don't find it as a challenge. And you said, I feel exhausted because guess what? A woman is challenging you. When you are in a challenge, what happens? You get tired. So when a female is masculine and you talk about competition, that a female who is literally knowing what she wants, holding you accountable, holding you responsible, and giving you the charge to be the leader, and you can't step up but insult her because she's in her masculine, guess what? You want to demean a woman or you want to bring her down to a certain level so that you can feel superior to her because what? She's not a masculine. She's not
No,
not
hold on,
a feminine.
Aaliyah. So, do you really think that's the best way to make your man a leader is to enter your masculine? Is that the only thing you
That's
can do by
absolutely
default?
not what I said. That is absolutely not what I said. When it comes down
But
to us
you said
having
if your man, no, well, hold on. What you said was if your man's not in his masculine and he's not leading, you're going to step up.
who
And
does
I
and,
think
and
that's
who
the
does
thing
in
that a
if you
lot of women have chose is that if their man's not in the masculine by default, that means they have to step up, and that's not what it is. You don't need to step up. You don't need to be in your masculine. What you can still be in your feminine and inspire and motivate that man to enter his masculine. By default, it doesn't mean just
no, you
because
can't. You can't
feminine.
do both. You can't do both. You can't inspire someone and tell them to be their better selves and literally also be a feminine because you're letting them lead. So if you're
Yes,
supposed to let them
you
lead,
100% can. That's what being feminine is. Feminine is being inspirational.
in your definition of you being
It's not
submissive
my
in
definition.
certitude,
It's not my definition.
trust
It's
me,
just
and
the definition.
the The likes of those that believe the roles in relationships literally are saying that when it comes down to a relationship, a woman should always be in a feminine because the masculine female is tiresome, exhausting, and draining. Why does she have to be that
Right.
way? Why does a female have to be in her
But she's
masculine?
supposed to be that way.
Because there's no masculines. There's no
But
masculines.
you still chose to be. What I'm saying is that you still chose to be masculine when there was another option for you.
If you're being feminine and there needs to be a leadership role, as you've just assigned, in all of what you've said, masculine equates to leadership, right? Femininity equates to submission, right? So if there is no masculine person in role and I stay in my submission, who's actually leading the ship? Who's actually the captain of the ship that's actually gonna make sure that we get to shore? There is
Then
nobody.
you do not by default become masculine. You either leave that man and find the masculine leader that you should be with,
It's not
but you
even
should
about
not by
it's
default become
but
masculine.
it's not about in the relationship. If in a relationship, I'm talking about, you have a lot of masculine women who are in their alpha, who is less feminine because they have to be leaders. We're talking about why we talk about Kevin Samuels talking about don't deal with the masculine female because she's challenging and tiresome and draining and competition competes with you. If you were literally in a space where you had a lot of masculinity around you, you have the safe space to be feminine. But you don't have that. So what do you have to be in your day to day because you're not surrounded by leaders? I just told you, in the communities that we find ourselves, we don't have Black leaders as strong as we need to. And we don't even have male leaders that we need to. And then when we have these feminine fellowships, what happens?
I agree with you with all of that. What I'm saying is that you don't need to by default become masculine. But
So
I
what do
know
you
what you're saying.
become?
And I think one aspect that we're missing um within this generation and this society are those positive feminine female role models for you to look at. Because a lot of times what we see are women who are just successful and in their masculine a lot of times. And I think that's what a lot of women inspired to be for some reason. And I think that's given women a kind of
Again,
a
we come
different
back to
mindset of how to
why.
act in relationships.
Why? Why are more females in their masculine? Because they choose to be?
There's no positive feminine role model out there for
No,
y'all.
no, no. That's not even the example. That's not even there's a lot of feminine role models out there. Hell, we got Michelle Obama. But
Yeah.
she's also masculine in her sense. And guess what? She has a partner that actually encourages her masculine.
But yeah, Obama's a leader, right? So she
But look at their relationship
knows
dynamic.
when to be submissive.
Look at their relationship dynamic. He also knows how to be submissive as well. You
But I mean,
cannot isolate it. You
he was
cannot.
the president, so I
That
wouldn't
doesn't.
say he was
So
submissive.
so that title now all of a sudden makes you an actual just because you have given a title
He's the president.
that
Yeah, that makes him a leader by default. Yes, that makes him a
no,
leader.
we're talking about the relationship. We're not talking about the country. We're talking about looking at their physical, their
I mean,
physical, visible
we don't know their
relationship.
relationship. Like
we
none of us
saw we
know.
see a lot of
Know.
part of their relationship that he very much so boosts her up. He supports her in her nonprofit. She supports her with her book. You see those things. Those are very visible. Again, that's her masculine. That's her masculine.
I
If we
don't
want
think
to talk
that's her
about
being
leadership,
masculine. No, I definitely don't think her. So
I think we should narrow it down based. I believe what Aliyah is saying. I agree with her. You know what? Masculine and feminine are just energies, and energies are fleeting. We use it depending on the circumstance and in the situation. So, for example, as a single mother, I have to use my masculine energy. However, in a relationship with a guy, I prefer to be in my feminine energy. In the corporate world, I prefer and I need to be in my masculine side. So you see, it depends upon the situation. But if we're going to narrow it down in a relationship, then yes, sometimes women, when we feel unsafe and unsecured, then we have to be in our masculine side. However, if we find a good man who can lead, who can love us, who can provide, who can secure us, who can make us feel safe, then by all means, I will be in my own feminine energy because I feel safe and calm and protected. I think
And
that's
that's all I'm saying that women should find. I don't think you should be with a man who is feminine though.
of course. But yeah, but there are some women that, but sometimes if the dynamics is good, then by all means,
Sure,
men can
sure.
be
I
in their
mean,
feminine side, and there
sure,
are
whatever
women who
works
would
for
want to be in the masculine side. Then so be it. It depends.
yeah.
But for me, I prefer again to be on my feminine side, and the man should lead the relationship for me. That's
All right.
my because that's my personality. You know.
So I
So
want to come back to ask you a question.
yeah,
So
yeah. I was just gonna say, I want to flip the script and give you guys a chance to ask me any questions that you might have. So Aaliyah, what's your question?
so when invited to this topic, right, to
Mhm.
discuss this topic, it being International Women's Week and Day, it
Right.
was articulated that the topic would be about how to help men improve.
Right.
The center of this conversation was really how should women submit to men.
No, I think that's what we got focused on in the midst of the discussion. But all the questions
So
I've
if I,
asked have
but
been centered around
we
how
have
men can
articulated
improve as
we have articulated how men can improve to be better leaders or better masculines or better partners, because if a person is not emotionally inept to be a leader, you got people throwing fits and tantrums because they think they're entitled to a woman. So when you say to go out and find people, they have to exude and exhibit those type of behaviors and characteristics
leaders.
prior to. And this is when we're telling you, Juliet, Jordan, myself have been single for a very long time, because you know what we're finding? Less people, or even
And
very
we're not
fine
leaders.
people that are not masculine, they're not leaders, they're not emotionally inept, and they're very traumatized. And so when
I
we're
agree.
telling you,
Yes.
hey, here is how men can improve, it doesn't flip the conversation of what we would do to support an inept man, because even then we're telling you that, hey, being a leader is one title that is just words. It's your actions that speak volume. And if you
Correct.
cannot have your actions to talk to even talk to your woman with respect, or
Correct.
to even encourage her, because
Correct.
that's actually feminine. That's again, the nurturement that we talk about, feminine, is nourishing.
Correct.
Men should also be nourishing. So if men are not nourishing because they want to be masculine and they want to be strong and they want to be the head of the household, and they're not exhibiting even the gentleness to approach women,
Or the
I come back to the
vulnerability.
same Right. I come back to the same conversation of how do we help men to be better daters, or how do we help men to improve? It is not the women that should help men improve, because then again, it comes into the masculine for women to help men to be the men that they should be by standards and not by us doing it. That's how we get into the masculine, is because we have to do the work that masculine men are not willing to do. And that means addressing the emotional trauma, addressing the emotional disconnections, realizing how to communicate with people in a safe, and Juliet just said it. We are asking to be safe, and we don't feel safe with the men. We don't even trust them. So how can you follow anybody
Now
who
hold on,
makes you
hold on.
feel
I also brought up the question was, if you did find that man, right? And he did do the work to be a leader. He did do the work to be your emotional rock. He did put in the work to be a provider. I asked you, would you be submissive to him? And
Yes.
you said no.
but the
And that
reality
and
is
that and
the
that and that's
reality
one of the
is
problems that
that's a
men are experiencing in the dating market. When they do reach
mm-mm,
that level,
that's a
women
hypothetical
still don't want to be
situation.
submissive.
That is a hypothetical situation that has yet to be a reality for very many women. That's why you're saying when we do. If we did, we wouldn't be on this call as single women, because we would have found that person. Me being 6 years, Juliet being 3 years, Jordan being 3 years, Juliet being a few years. Like, we literally are telling you, we can't think of a hypothetical situation of this imaginative character that's supposed to exist when we look at the reality of people and the quality of people that exist, and they do not have this ability to be followed or the ability to be
Wait, hold on.
trusted.
You also brought up a point where, okay, this topic was around how men can improve, right? But we got so caught up in the way I asked for you to do something that we weren't even able to really dive into the subject of how men can improve, because you guys
And
were
that's
all
where
caught up in how I said, "Yo, babe, can you do this for me?" Literally, you guys were caught up in the way I said something rather than the point behind it.
when we tell you exactly our experiences, this is what we call invalidation. So the conversation could have transitioned to more into another conversation, another topic. But it's again the attachment to, what do you mean you wouldn't, or no, it's the fact that we can have our opinions and experiences, and they can be very much so valid. That's the other problem with dating, is that everything is up for an argument. Everything is up for a challenge. No, if I have a belief system, or I have something that I believe in, or I feel connected to something, and that's my truthism, it is not up for a challenge. It's not up for an invalidation. It's not even up for a discussion. What it is up for is acceptance. If I'm feeling a certain way about a certain topic, or we have our opinions about it, it's not about us getting caught up on it. It was us articulating to you that this is something that we all, this isn't even how we could even get into a dating somebody. I was telling you, it's how they approach us. Juliet explained how she was approached, how she handled it. I'm telling you, these are things in which matter to communication. How you talk to someone, how you approach them, is actually in the dating app of swiping. Hey, how are
Also,
you?
I understand that, but my main point was that you guys were not able to get past the way I said it, right? And that's why we went into that whole discussion about that. But also, besides that, I think it's not our responsibility to always manage how you're going to react to something and how you're going to feel. I think there has to be some accountability on your end to how you receive the message and how you take it in. And that comes back to understanding the person that you're dealing with. If he's under a lot
So
of
if
pressure and a lot of stress,
it goes, thank you,
kind
it
of need
goes
to
both
understand
ways.
how you feel at that time. And that's a part of emotional intelligence. But nobody wants to take that into account. You need to be in control and accountable for your own feelings and how someone says something.
I'm so glad you said that, because then that's actually what men should do as well.
Of
Yes, please,
course.
please wait.
But we're real.
Wait.
The whole question was, this man came in and he was the leader that you sought after, right? He was that person that you sought after. But you
and
were not able
and
to get over the way I asked you to do something. You were not
will
able to get
will
over my tone.
I definitely appreciate your space. I definitely love that you are targeting a change and revolution in the dating experience. Harping on a particular topic, especially just now, isn't an actual just the females were doing it. It was actually a mutual thing. And that's the accountability, what I talk about in regards to partnerships. Taking your accountability of like, this was my part in this, and this was your part in this, and not pointing fingers or blaming, but you taking ownership as well as us taking ownership. I
Well, I
said,
never blamed you. Let's just say that I've never blamed you.
when you said that you guys couldn't get over our tone, there was other things that we were bringing up that were of relevance and importance, and it got stifled and invalidated because of the primary question, rather as opposed to the content and the information that we shared with you. We shared with you valid things that matter to us in regards to how we should be approached, how we should be respected, how we should actually enter into a partnership or a relationship. And that was not seen as heavily as, well, you wouldn't follow him, or you wouldn't trust him. There's an ownership to that. The things that we said were valid, and it was invalidated because you had a primary focus on getting an answer that served the primary question in favor. And we were telling you that there is a difference of opinion. So this is where I say there is an ownership from us having the, hey, we really want you to see this point, hey, see this, versus you saying, I wanted a particular response from you that favored the conversation, and in actuality it didn't. It prolonged it into this.
I mean, there was no response I wanted that wasn't the truth. All I wanted was the truth. So
So that would have been accepted a long time ago. So then the next question I would encourage.
I was willing to move on from that, but like I said, I'm not going to go back on it. I know you had another question about submissiveness, something towards that we were going to get back to.
I that submissive question is, I would say, is has been well discussed. It's been well delved into, and I am literally leaving that again. So we want to move on from that. And I would honestly say, if it comes down to how can we help men improve to be better daters, communication. Communication and listening.
I agree with you.
Listening.
And words matching actions. And consistency.
Yes.
Yeah.
If we don't have people that actually know how to communicate, whether it be their interest, their intention, what they desire to experience, you have a lot of people that are in the balance, and that doesn't progress anything forward. So listening to your perspectives, as well as communicating what your needs are, that's going to be really helpful for men to evolve into better conversation and exchanges with women.
I think the main thing, I want men to be better leaders. You know, that's the main thing I want. I want them to become better leaders, and I want you to. Well, why do you laugh at that?
Because if you didn't notice just now, you came back to a conversation that we just left. And I think we drilled it home about leadership in a relationship, and we've drilled it home about submission in a relationship, femininity, masculinity. What other things can be possessed by a male? What other things actually are necessary? Because the end result is leadership. But what are the little steps in between that gets them or makes them or encourages them to be better leaders? And that's where, in many parts of this conversation, we've talked about points to help them, because just wanting someone to be a better leader is just a concept. What's the action steps?
It's not just the concept. I would say being a good leader is the driving force of the relationship. And this kind of goes back to the point where we were talking early before about dating, where you would say, okay, yeah, him being a good communicator, emotionally intelligent, is kind of you saying, oh, he needs to have a good personality that outshines his attractiveness. The man does not get through the door, or in this case, succeed in a relationship if he's not a good leader. Just like how he won't get through the door of being able to show his personality to you if he's not at least attractive to you and meets those standards. So I think being a leader is the driving force and is one of the main components when it comes to being a good man in a relationship.
It's a concept.
I think it's just one of the aspects. If we're talking about
it is one of the aspects, but I think it's one of the many aspects that's heavily weighted.
But Juliet even said it, when your words match your actions. Mm-hmm. If you say you're a leader, you would actually show it. It's just like as you're a king or a queen, right. You don't have to tell people that you are that. You actually embody it by actually doing the actions. That's why if you think of Obama being the president, yes, a leader. But what did he do to get there? He hosted social meetups on meetup.com. He would go to events. He would do all of these actions to get to leadership status. If he didn't do that, he would never have the title of president or leader if he didn't take the initial steps to become that. So that's why I say it's a concept. It's a concept to become a president unless you take the actions to actually become that thing. If you don't become that thing, you're not really a leader or a president. You don't take the necessary actions. And that's where we're telling you, and to help people, you think people should be leaders. Great, that's a concept. Can they actually be leaders? Are they taking the actions to be leaders? Are we giving them, equipping the tools for them to become leaders? No. That's why this conversation is valid. And or how can we help men to improve from the female perspective? Because guess what? Unless you want to have a male and male relationship, you still need a female. And the female has a valid point to actually say their experience and not be invalidated to help improve a man. That's the part where I'm saying we have action steps like, please, here's how you can be a better leader. Some things you can do in the time being. That would help. But if we don't actually, we just want them to be leaders.
And that's where you brought up communication and emotional intelligence.
Right.
Yes, I completely understand
So
that. What I'm
those
saying is those are the smaller quirks in the part of the relationship that differ from man to man, right? But above all, being a leader is being a provider, a protector, and someone who's willing to share his resources with you, being your emotional rock, being able to handle the problems that you're not able to deal with at that time.
I think
That's
being a leader is just a concept.
that those things are more important than him just being able to direct the message a certain way in regards of your feelings at that point in time under his stressful
don't go
situation.
back. Don't go back. I know it's tempting. Don't go back there. Okay. I'm going to remind
No,
you
I'm
now.
not.
Like,
I'm just
we're not
driving
going back
my
to the
point
tone or
home.
I
attitude.
think what we're looking for is a good man to date, and he should be respectful. He should have values. He should be spiritually stable, emotionally, mentally. It's very holistic. Being a leader is just
You need to be
one
the full
aspect.
package. I always said this. Men need to become the full package. You can't just get away with
It
just being
goes both ways.
part of it.
But you have to actually define what the full, because again, concept, full package. What does that mean? Leader, what does that mean? Those are just titles and concepts, but we actually are failing people when we tell them that they have we tell, it's like, go ride a bike. We don't actually give them the tools to do so. And that's the part where this conversation is valid, because we want to give the tools for people to actually step into the person that they want to be, but they don't have the know-how. They don't have the community leaders. They don't have the actual people having these conversations to talk about, hey, here is how you can be a leader. Here is how you can actually interact with females and actually come and have a fruitful experience. We don't, again, if you're saying you want them to be a leader, I'm asking you how. Bring it back to the very basics. If someone was listening to this podcast, and I know that they will be, what tools will they walk away from that helps them to be this concept that you want them to be?
What, being a good leader? You have to be
this being a partner. We're talking about dating and how do we, because again, like I said, if we're talking about dating and we're single women on this podcast, how are we helping them with tools to be better daters? Because you can't get to leadership of leading a relationship if you can't even get past the dating and courtship phase. So how do they be better daters? How can they be better daters? Based off of what we've said today, and this is, again, what we asked, listening, what did you hear us say to help men be better daters?
Of course. What did you guys say? You guys said communication and emotional intelligence. I understand that.
Respect.
But when you really take it back, okay, those are things that happen after you develop the connection with the person, right? Your communication, your emotional intelligence, how your connection before
So
you even reach
you
that
just go
point.
go into sex without
Before you
saying
even
hello
reach
to
that
someone.
point, a man needs to exhibit other traits and qualities, which I
But you
said
have
he
to-
needs to be a protector, a provider. He needs to be attractive. He needs to be motivated. He needs to be ambitious. Those are all other traits he needs to exhibit before he can even attract a woman like yourself and for you to fit into
He
his
needs to
life.
be whole.
He has
Like
to be able
I
to
said,
communicate. He has to be able to communicate.
emotional intelligence and communication are very good. I'm not undermining that, but I'm saying that comes after he meets those certain qualities and pre-checks on your list as a woman, because you're not going to just accept any man who's emotionally intelligent and can communicate well. Well, I hope you wouldn't, because a lot of men can fake being emotionally intelligent and communicate well. A lot of men can do that. That's easy. We can please to your emotions. That's easy.
But we're telling you that they're not doing that. That's why Juliet, Jordan, and myself have actually told you that's not our common experience. Our
Well,
three
you're telling me
women on this
that there's not a men
podcast,
who aren't leaders. That's what you guys.
but
That's what you guys have said. There's a lot of men who are not leaders. And I
if
think
majority of
being
the
a
people that
leader encompasses emotional intelligence and communication, but there's other factors that are also heavily weighted outside of that. So I
but we're
understand what
but
you're
we're
saying. I do.
what we're telling you is that our, and this is where again validation matters as to what we're saying, and our experiences matter. So when we share that and we tell you that we're supposed to have these leaders and we're supposed to have these men and we're supposed to be drawn to these people, we're telling you there is a deficit. There is a lack of people who have those qualities and characteristics. And this is why, again, I bring back to this conversation, because there needs to be a new nurturement of men being able to be dateable. We can't aspire to have a partner if majority of the men are not partnership worthy or even capable. They can't even talk to you.
I think
That's
you.
where communication doesn't come in
Agree,
after.
but that I don't think that's any reason for you to be default masculine. That's all I was saying as well. Just because you're with a feminine man or a man who's not a leader at that moment, I don't think that's a valid reason for you to just default to be masculine. That's it. But Julia, do you have any questions for me?
No, I'm just thinking is that leading is just one aspect. You know, if I'm going to be in a relationship with someone who is just purely leading the relationship and has no room for vulnerability, then I wouldn't also be feeling loved, right? So I think there's has to be a balance between masculine and feminine energy. Again, I prefer someone in a relationship, a man to lead. However, that doesn't mean that he has to be in his masculine energy 100%. There are moments that I need him to be on the feminine side. I need him to be vulnerable for
Of
me to be
course.
able to feel love, right? So there has to be a balance between those energies, right? So
Of
I
course.
think that's basically my what my point is since we started the podcast.
All right. We are gonna wrap this up. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. I'm gonna link the Instagrams to these lovely ladies below if you want to reach out to them or
Mm.
contact them more regarding anything. Thank you for tuning in, guys. We are out of here.